On this episode of Ham Nation, we've got a great report on field day from everyone in the team and a few friends, and also a great new product from MFJ and Howard Nurse, the RigPi Station Server. Don't go away. Ham Nation is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This episode of Ham Nation is brought to you by ICOM. For more information, visit icomamerica.com/hamnation.
This is Ham Nation, episode 408 for June 26, 2019. RigPi Remote and Field Day 2019.
Hi, everybody. It's Bob Heil, K9EID. I'm in our Ozarks home, and we're about ready to put Ham Nation on the air. Got some really neat things tonight. Of course, we're going to talk a lot about Field Day. A lot, but we have a real special guest. Howard is here. Howard Nurse is the guy that developed the new RigPi for MFJ. We're going to tell you all about it. But in the meantime, Gordon West is here. Gordon, you doing okay?
CQ Field Day, CQ. Oh, we're on. Yeah, Bob, all is well. Field Day went well. And we have a hurricane coming up, which means Hawaii on 2 meters soon. Back to you, Bob.
Okay. George, how you doing? Everything okay? You enjoy Field Day down in Mississippi?
I did, Bob. We managed to actually get in the woods this year, first time in 3 years, so we were able to get out there. No heat stroke, although it was 95 degrees, and probably the humidity was up there very close to that as well. It felt like anyway. But we survived. I want the T-shirt that says I survived Field Day 2019. But I've got a little video later in the show tonight.
Okay. We'll come back and look for all that. And, of course, as I said, Amanda's here. First, let's go out to California and talk to Howard. Howard, it's really good to have you, W6HN.
Yes, great, and you got the right call. Thank you very much, Bob, and good evening to you and the other guests and all the viewers. It's great to be here, and really excited about RigPi. And so once you want me to launch into the description and the story, let me know.
Yes, well, we have a whole bunch of questions about it, but basically I'm sure you're going to cover most of them into the fact that how you thought to do it and how you developed it and all of that. So let's do that, and then you can call up the shots that Victor has in the studio. So I'm anxious to hear how you did it and why you did it and all that.
Yes, it's been an odyssey. I originally got involved with servers over a decade ago to host a couple of servers that I have for my other Windows product or program, logging program, Comcat and Comcat Mobile for iOS. But those servers really got me inspired to think about the architecture of servers and how that really is well suited to station control. Servers allow you to connect or have a number of connections to one computer, to share resources, to use any number of browsers, even to do control things over servers. And it turns out that RigPi was born out of that idea. It's a multi-user, multi-radio server, complete with a web browser interface and all of the other aspects of logging and rig control that you might hope for. I can see you put up the MFJ 1234 site, and you can see that the price is $299.95, and you only need one of them. Get a lot of questions about how many we need. You only need one at the station end. It connects to your radio either through an internal audio board and or through a codec if your radio has a codec built in. It also has an internal K1EL WinKey chip, and that is on a second board. Then the Raspberry Pi is the fundamental computer inside of the box. So it's a complete server. It lets you operate your station either locally or remotely, and it includes digital modes. It has the latest versions of FT8, WSJTX, and JS8 call. So why don't we jump into the slideshow that we've done and take a look at it. The RigPi Station Server, sometimes we call it the RSS, is Raspberry Pi based, as I said, and was born out of the my thoughts about using a server for rig control. The myqsx.net was launched in 2009, but why not set up station control using a browser? That would have many advantages. In other words, the complete control is done through a web browser. So that means that it's agnostic to an app. You don't need to download any software on the remote end. You can use Droid, iPhone, PCs, Apples, Linux boxes, even Chromebooks. Complete Linux computer is on the Raspberry Pi. It's a 3.5 by 2.25 inch board. It has extensive I/O. There are many, many ham applications available for it, probably hundreds. It's inexpensive. It's available for about $35. And it is also being superseded as we speak by a new Raspberry Pi 4. And the Raspberry Pi 4 is going to be introduced into RigPi at some point in the future. The goals were to provide rig and rotor control, logging, callbook lookup. It contains an FCC online database, built in to RigPi, not online. You don't need to connect to it through another server. It also allows you to connect to any one of a number of popular DX spot sources, and wants to have a built-in keyer, the goal, and audio through VoIP. It is set up to be multi-user, which means you can connect it with multiple devices at the same time, or you can have friends sharing your radio, or you can have friends using their own radio in your shack for complete independent operating. The two boards, as I mentioned, are the RigPi Keyer. It's an add-on board. You can choose to add it or not to RigPi when you purchase it. It uses the very popular K1EL WinKey chip, and if you buy the complete box from MFJ, the full up $299.95 system, then it's all set for CW with a CW board built in, and the second board, which is on the next slide, or the RigPi audio board. It appears as a standard audio device to the Raspberry Pi. It uses port audio, and it's compatible with all popular VoIP programs and digital modes. There is transformer isolation built in. It has an IQ input, 2-channel input if you want to build up a PAN adapter. And it's got a number of PTT options that allow you to either control your radio's PTT function, or you can use it for external switching. You can repurpose the PTT connection. With RigPi Remote, or operating in the remote mode, you can control your station from anywhere you have an internet connection. You can use just about any device as long as it has a browser. And it's also happens to be compatible with my program Comcat for Windows and Comcat Mobile, which is a free iOS app on the Apple Store. It can be battery operated for field operation. Think about go bags. And it's also, you don't need an internet to use it. It is completely self-contained, so you can use it for mountain topping and other remote applications or uses where you don't have internet. The RigPi network can be set up with multiple remote users. It uses the Mumble VoIP and texting application. You can have multiple users connected to that. You can connect it to a repeater, and there are some software apps that you can load on RigPi that will allow you to control repeaters. You can link to other RigPi nodes and even set up a wide area RigPi network using other software that's available for free from many, many sources. The applications are almost infinite. We've added to this list since it was originally written, but certainly you can use it with for local station control and logging and call lookup. It's great for remote or mobile radio control. You can use your phone in your car and use your rig at home. It's an excellent choice for field day. It allows multiple users, multiple radios, and each user can maintain their own log, and the logs can be combined into one for further processing. It's great in a Go box. You know, it's you can put a small radio and a RigPi in a Go box, and you've got a lightweight, low power solution for rig control and battery operation and operation in the fields. Be also good for de-expeditions. You don't need to carry along a big laptop or other large computers. You could use the RigPi as the main station computer. And finally, it's great for emergency communications when you need something that's perhaps battery operated and where you need to control it remotely. It's a perfect application for that. There, as I've been saying, you can communicate when there's no power, internet, or cell phone. You could use it for last mile message delivery. If the use it radio for something like WinLink and put that software on the RigPi and away you go. It's great for texting and two-way audio between users. So even if you're not using it for radio, if you're in an emergency situation, you could set up a network with an antenna up high, a Wi-Fi network, and allow users from as far as a mile away to log in and have two-way audio with one or more users. There are also a number of gateways to outside services using radio. That's one application that we'd like to add in the future. Here's a photo of the box. It's very small. It's looks like a typical MFJ box. You can see it has the HDMI input and 5-volt power supply input and a speed key. You don't need to be running the RigPi system in order to use the keyer. So there's a pot on the side of the box to control the keyer and control the speed. On the right side, you can see that there are the standard RigPi connections. Here's another excellent photograph. There we go. Thank you. You added some. That's great. Ethernet connector and four USB ports. The audio connector is an RJ45 that uses the standard cables produced by MFJ for their 1204 audio converter box for digital modes. And then on the back, there really isn't anything other than cooling. On the far side, there is 6 connectors that you can use in lieu of the RJ45. There's an IQ-in for pan adapters. There's a receive in and transmit out with the PTT on the transmit out. There's a separate PTT connector for the keyer. Paddle input, you can use a paddle or a keyer or a straight key as an input and the key output to the radio. So that takes us pretty much through all of the features. We've covered a lot, but what do you think? Bob, how does that look?
First of all the things that you say it will do, and of course we know that it will do, you would think it would be a box, a huge box, and it would be $5,000, but that's not the case. I'm just in awe of, number one, what it all will do in that little box, but it's not expensive. So you have a real winner here, and I know that Martin Jew and the whole team at MFJ are going to be the ones to put this thing on top. I understand that they're way back ordered on it already. So go ahead and get on the list, everybody, because this is going to be something very special. I really appreciate all of the information, Howard. Gordon, are you still with us? Are you there, Gordo?
Oh, I sure am. And wow, I'm drooling over what Howard brought to us tonight.
Yeah, that's going to be great for all the things that you do out there. What about you, George? I think you and Howard have hooked up before, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. Howard and I talked, well, I guess it was a couple of years ago at the MFJ 45th anniversary, and he was just, I don't know, you weren't real far along on the project back then, and I'm glad to see that you were able to release it this year. And boy, it looks like it's taken the world by storm.
That's really good stuff. Howard,
yes, it is.
we need to get. Go ahead, Howard.
Yeah, I was just going to say we need to wrap up. I think that's what you may be saying, but I should also mention you can learn more at rigpi.net. We also have a very active forum at rigpi.groups.io. And you're absolutely right. It is backordered now, and the response has just been absolutely amazing. Thank you, Bob. I think we'll turn it back to you now so you can go on with your other guests.
Well, I appreciate you being here. We're going to have you back when they get a few more into the marketplace. We'll have you back. So thanks for coming today. That's really super. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Before I get out. Before I get to Gordo, here's a couple of things that I did for Field Day. Here's Holly and I. We were out at the Tri-States and had a lot of fun there. And there's another picture. I had my hat on because it was really hot, and we appreciated that. Jim was showing us his some of his antenna. Very proud of the local SMARC. That's the Springfield bunch, and normally they don't do an HF group for Field Day, but they did. They went all out this year, but I'm really sad to say that pretty much into it, the storms took them all down, so they had to vacate quickly, but at least they got a taste, and I know next year it'll be great. So we're looking forward to that. Gordo, I bet you have a lot of stories about what you did on Field Day. Let's hear them.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. And Bob, just before I go into the Field Day activities, I got a call this morning from Don Arnold, W6GPS. He's a GPS APRS guy, the D-Star guy. And Don goes, "It's up. The PSAT-2 is in orbit." Went up June 25th, thanks to Bob, WB4APR, Bob Breninga, and all of his naval students. This project has been long awaited, and it's going to be on 145.825 at 1200 baud packet, 435.350 for both PSK 31 and slow scan television. But that's just the beginning. Those of you in the chat room and our viewers and readers, you got to see what PSAT is going to do for those of us in this part of the country. Go to aprs.org/PSAT and the number 2.html and learn more about this exciting project that in one case, you can actually type in your APRS information. If you don't have an APRS handheld, you can do it on the touch tone pad on an alternate frequency, and it comes out voice on the downlink. So really neat stuff. Don, keep us up to date, and maybe next week we'll get a listen. But for those of you that want to tune in to the space stations packet as well as the new PSAT and others, 145.825, 25 kilohertz up from the International Space Station normal voice frequency. Well, we had a great Field Day, and let's take a look and see what's happening with Field Day Southern California. We started out with nice, bright, sunny days, and early that morning, on Saturday morning, we actually heard some meteor burns. And, of course, there was that big meteor that made the ocean off of Puerto Rico that day. Who knows if it was the same thing. But 6 meters came alive for a little bit. And those of you in Texas, wow, you were working east big time. So Field Day setup included 6 meters, the antenna on the right, as well as 2 meters and 440 horizontally polarized, looking for Hawaii. But Hawaii will not be coming in until about 4 more days when the Pacific High moves into position. And when the hurricane, we always open up a Pacific tropo duct when the hurricane down south begins to move up into Baja California. So we were ready. We didn't work Hawaii, but our Costa Mesa Emergency Service Auxiliary Communications team was ready, set up, and raring to go for field day. And Bob, let me tell you, the Pro 7 Heil headset, boy, that sure made our field day operators happy. And for me, the parametric audio system that you have just released, wow, that sure makes listening nice. And, you know, we use that in connection with the headphones because, as we indicated last week, it's good to let everybody else behind the scene know what's happening when they walk up and going, well, what are you listening to? They're hearing the same audio. Well, tonight we're going to talk about the hardworking batteries that kept a lot of these pieces of field day equipment on the air. And that's Kevin. And Kevin is with BioNO Power. Kevin, KI6 Delta Hotel, Quebec. Kevin has for years been so excited about the new technology of lithium iron phosphate. And the BioNO Power was one of the first big companies to really make it available to hams. And Kevin went all over the country meeting hams and asking them what they wanted. And what the hams wanted were a battery that would be a third of the weight of a regular lead acid battery, that would run for a lot more staying power, and beside lightweight for the soda teams, they wanted something that would work down to freezing as well as up to 100 plus degrees where George is. And well, BioNO was able to come through with it, and it grabbed the fancy of the U.S. Coast Guard, and it's used also by NTIA and FEMA and many of the other emergency groups. Well, I wanted to know what was inside the BioNO batteries. And Kevin said, well, come on over. He drew me a little chart there showing them, and that's just an indication. And yeah, these batteries are more expensive than a sealed lead acid battery, but these batteries just keep going and going for up to 5 years. Now, each of these cells is 3.2 volts DC. When they're charged, they go up to 3.65 volts DC. And again, these cells are arranged as they put them together here in Santa Ana, California, in both series and parallels to come out with the right voltage as well as the right current. So if you have a 24 volt setup, or 48 volts to possibly drive an amplifier, all of these batteries can be configured by the manufacturer to go ahead and work in that particular circuit. So these cells are then capped with a printed circuit board called a protective circuit module. And this little module that goes into the batteries ensures that the batteries are not going to get overcharged, and that the batteries will be cut off if they are undercharged, overcurrent on a short out, or no current. The protection circuit really does its thing. But one thing that's not in the instruction manual is if they accidentally get shorted out by getting plugged in backwards to a rig or something like that, it automatically will drop the batteries out. And the way the batteries come back into circuit is to apply at least 13.5 to 14 volts to them. So if ever you have one of the BioNO battery packs and you do something crazy like we all do at field day, and all of a sudden they should go out, no problem at all. Just hit them with the proper 12 volts and they will come back to life thanks to the protective circuit. And they've got batteries going all the way down the bottom of the screen to about 3 amp hours, 6 amp hours, 12, 20, 30, 50, 100 amp hours. They even had one mighty one that was about 200 or 300 ampere hours. But these are not designed to start your rig. Now, not your radio rig, but not designed to start your vehicle. They are designed for staying power. In the RV industry, we call those house batteries. And each of them have the cells built in. BioWinnow also brings in solar panels, and the solar panels that are going to be able to provide enough current to keep a 20 amp hour BioWinnow battery about the size of a brick, 1/3 the weight of a regular starting battery for a motorcycle. These are big panels, and the one on the right puts out about 3 amps, and the one just over the shadow about 5 amps. And they would go into a proprietary regulator, and that regulator would ensure that the battery doesn't get overcharged. And this will give you an idea of some of the size of the big guys, but you don't need to lug a 50 amp or 100 amp battery out to a mountaintop. You may find, and they've got calculations on their website, biowinnowpower.com. They've got all sorts of lists showing you exactly how long you can run certain rigs at certain power levels. And generally, it's going to be the 20 ampere, not the big 100 that you see here, that's going to keep your rig happy and going without even any solar power. There you see on the very far end is the BioWinnow 100 amp hour battery, and that's running 3 different transceivers, and it went all day at Quartz Fest unconnected to the solar panel, and it still held the voltage. That's the neat thing about the lithium iron phosphate technology. The voltage won't dip much below 12.8 when it's in the 75 to 80% used up, where a lead acid battery is only going to give you a good full voltage for half its capacity, and the other half is almost unused because whatever you were driving says, I need more voltage. And you can be assured that Ray with ICOM had to have as much voltage as he needed to keep those great rigs running off of strictly the battery. And it was late in the afternoon, and he was quite happy, and there was no voltage dip as he was running the equipment. And Chip Margelli, K7JA, when he and I go down to the beach and set up, this is with the Chameleon loop, and we talked about that last week. Thanks, John, N7JDM, Chameleon engineer. He made sure that the variable cap inside that particular loop was working as it should. Carl Lavoie made sure that it did. And let me tell you, for field day on Sunday, it worked just terrific. But there's the BioWinnow battery and the 100-watt rig right in front of them. And without a solar panel, it ran for about 8 hours plus, and we could have gone more, but the sun finally went down. There is another use of the BioWinnow battery. It's on the bottom left-hand side. That's Tracy Lineker, and Tracy Lineker was using it to power his helicraft, and that's a little 3 ampere, and that was more than enough to power his QRP rig for a lot of yakking on a field day activity we were doing a little earlier. So Tracy looks very happy. Well, I wanted to get one inside my case here, so I had to first pull out the ham rig on the top and the Coast Guard Auxiliary NTIA compliant radio on the bottom. That's the HF radio. And we got the battery all rigged up with nothing more than Velcro, and this is the original Velcro, trademark Velcro that we use. And it doesn't care about whether it's upside down or right side up. Plenty of room to get it squeezed in there, and that was the neat thing about it. Kept us on the air for the rest of the field day operation. So we hope all of you will do consider lithium iron phosphate. I think it's sort of the latest technology. It's not prone to explode or get hot or boil over. You can get it through the airport up to about a 20 amp hour. Make that a 12 amp hour battery. You can get it on your carry-aboard luggage. So biowinnowpower.com is where you want to look up all those charts that give you estimated runtime. And quite frankly, they say if you're running a 100-watt output rig, that's about 200 watts input, the 20 ampere will keep you on the air for 7 hours, 80% receive, 20% yakking, a little bit less. Now, that's without the solar panel, but run a solar panel, and it'll probably keep that battery right right at 13.2. And that's why I like the battery, because when I'm microwaving and doing VHF, UHF work to Hawaii on this July 4th and 5th, when the band conditions open up for tropospheric ducting, high pressure system coming in, and the hurricane spinning to the south, perfect time to be working Hawaii, and I go to a special spot, and we do that all with just a lightweight battery. So that's my story. We had a great field day, and we hope all of you did as well. We worked many of you Ham Nation listeners, and we'll look forward to hearing you on the air again soon, maybe even tonight. Well, let's take a look and see what else is happening with Ham Radio and go to Don and Newsline. Newsline?
From Amateur Radio Newsline Report, number 2173, these are the Ham Nation headlines for Wednesday, June 26, 2019. Sadly, we begin this week's report with the somber news that another tragic tower accident has claimed a member of the amateur radio community.
Police in Susquehanna County, Pennsylvania, have identified him as Leland Lee Parsons III, N3LPJ, president and a founding member of the Susquehanna County Amateur Radio Club and a member of the Wayne County Amateur Radio Club. Police said he was attempting to connect a guy wire to the bottom section of his amateur radio tower Friday, June 14th, when the tower collapsed, causing him to fall. The Pennsylvania accident is the latest in a series of fatal tower falls hams have suffered. The well-known contester, the Reverend Paul Bittner, W0AIH, died last October at age 84. In 2009, Larry Prelig, KE4PM, was killed in the collapse of a tower being used for field day. Lee, who held an amateur extra class license, was 62 when he became a silent key. We here at Amateur Radio Newsline once again remind all our listeners to please follow safety procedures.
Newsline anchor Jim Dameron, N8TMW, reporting. A New Jersey ham is losing his license and paying a $7,500 fine for alleged unauthorized transmissions on public safety frequencies.
David Larson Sr., WS2L of Highland Park, and the FCC have entered into a consent decree. The FCC, in its announcing the agreement on June 18th, said that if he violates it, he is subject to a civil penalty of $32,500. Larson has also agreed to surrender radio equipment capable of transmitting on public safety frequencies. The complaint against Larson, who held an amateur extra class license, dates back to May 2018, when the FCC first received reports that he was making unauthorized transmissions on the municipal radio system and sent agents on several occasions to investigate. The FCC's announcement identified Larson as a former rescue squad volunteer in the borough of Highland Park. Larson has also agreed not to apply for a new ham radio license for 3 years. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Paul Brown, WD9GCO.
Finally this week, what happens when you're in low Earth orbit and you suddenly get a craving for, of all things, pizza?
Owen Garriott, W5LFL, who became a silent key earlier this year, may have been the first astronaut to make an amateur radio call from the International Space Station, but the distinction of receiving the first pizza delivered there is the proud province of cosmonaut Yuri Usachov. In 2001, Pizza Hut restaurant chain sent the 6-inch diameter delicacy, topped with more travel-friendly salami instead of pepperoni, at a cost equivalent to about $1 million. The vacuum-sealed meal was prepared and perfected in Kazakhstan, where the Russian space program is headquartered. NASA, of course, was able much later to send pizza-making meal kits to the astronauts, who in December 2017, and as recently as this past April, have had pizza parties in space. As the world prepares to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Apollo 11 moon landing, let us all consider this encouraging thought that with a little effort, pie in the sky is indeed within the reach of all of us. For Amateur Radio Newsline, I'm Mike Askins, KE5CXP.
That Askins, he always gets the saucy assignments. A reminder that the nominees for the 2019 Newsline Bill Pasternak WA6ITF Young Ham of the Year are in the hands of the awards committee. Our thanks to Young Ham of the Year Award corporate underwriters Yezu, CQ Communications, Heil Sound, Radio Waves Antennas, and of course you, our listeners. We'll see you in Huntsville, Alabama on August 17th for the presentation. And that's all from the Amateur Radio Newsline, your independent source for amateur radio news for 4 decades and counting at arnewsline.org. With Jim Dameron, N8TMW, Paul Brown, WD9GCO, The Pizza Man, Mike Askins, KE5CXP, Karen Eve Murray, KD2GUT at the news desk in New York, and our news team across the globe. I'm Don Wilbanks, AE5DW. 7-3. We'll see you next time here on Ham Nation.
Contest from home or remotely, and create your own band opening with ICOM's newest SDR transceiver, the IC9700. Bring in direct sampling to the UHF-VHF weak signal market. The IC9700 all-mode transceiver is loaded with innovative features. Dedicated amateur satellite operation, color touchscreen, D-Star capability built in, RF direct sampling on the 2-meter and 70-centimeter bands, dual independent receivers capable of full duplex operation as well as dual watch, and 100 watts max output power on 2 meters, 75 watts max on 70 centimeters, and 10 watts max on 1.2 gigahertz. The IC7610 is the SDR every ham wants. This high-performance SDR has the ability to pick out the faintest signals even in the presence of stronger adjacent signals. The ICOM IC7610 is a direct sampling software-defined radio that will change the world's definition of a SDR radio. RF direct sampling, 110 dBm RMDR, independent dual receivers, and dual digicell. The IC7300 is changing the way entry-level HF is designed. This high-performance, innovative HF transceiver with a compact design will far exceed your expectations. RF direct sampling, 15 discrete bandpass filters, large 4.3-inch color touchscreen, real-time spectrum scope, and SD memory card slot. Visit icomamerica.com/amateur for more information on all the great ICOM radios. And don't forget to be ham active in June. Participate in both the June VHF contest as well as Field Day. Submit your logs and see how you did in the pile-up. And ICOM invites you to enter in their weekly drawings for some great swag prizes like T-shirts and hats, and you'll automatically be entered in the grand prize drawing for a new radio when you register at icomamerica.com/hamnation. And for June, that new radio is the ICOM IC2738 dual band dual watch mobile. It's got simultaneous VHF-UHF receive, or VHF-VHF, or UHF-UHF. It's got a rugged mill standard 810 construction, a large display, built-in weather alert function, and there's free CS2730 programming software, and optional Bluetooth board is available. So go to icomamerica.com/hamnation after this and each episode and register to win. Sign up, good luck, and don't forget to follow ICOM America Inc. on Facebook and Twitter. And now, from out in the, is it the land of Oz? I don't know. What do you call it over there, Dale?
It is the land of Oz. That was one of the promotions a few years ago. We're right on the Yellow Brick Road here, and we have a fantastic video segment for you tonight, George. Our great Ham Nation viewers came through, and we've got 3 Field Day videos and 39 seconds of slides. And Randy, K7AGE, is going to kick it off. It's our Field Day video segment coverage from the Pelican Bay Amateur Radio Club. Here's Randy.
The Pelican Bay Amateur Radio Club in Brookings, Oregon, our first field day. The guys are working on the pop-up, getting it tied down because it's usually windy here. So the plan is we have 2 painter poles on the trailer, and they're going to be pushed up 25 feet, and we're going to hang a couple dipoles. See how that works. Since it's all twisted up as a knot.
No, I hope not.
No, we'll wait till...
And up goes the dipole. Did you get it untwisted?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have a slight problem here. The wires keep getting wrapped around themselves. So here we are set up. We got 2 stations, 2 dipoles. First time out. We got them a little too close together, but we'll change that for next year. They've posted it up on Facebook, and we've had several people from the town come out and see what we're doing. Kilo 7, Alpha Golf Echo.
Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo.
And what I do is I usually try to put this down first and then make the contact, especially if he's strong like that, because good chance you're going to get him. So I try to do a lot of the stuff pretty ahead.
Okay. I can't understand anything. CQ, field day, and then what?
And then you do the call sign.
Okay.
And then you wait for somebody to pick it up, and then they'll come back with this call sign, and then they'll say theirs. They'll say, Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo, this is N7SGV.
Okay.
I'm responding back to you.
Now?
Yep.
CQ field day. Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo. VE7?
I think so.
I heard Victor Whiskey.
That's you. That's you. Call. Yeah, my call.
Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo.
Again?
Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo.
Okay, I got Kilo 7 Alpha Golf coming in.
This is Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo.
Two Alpha DC. Tell him he's 2 Alpha Australia. I wrote Howard 2 Alpha Oregon, tell him.
2 Alpha Oregon.
The call is K7AGE. You didn't have it complete. Good. You got it, though.
Woo! I did one. Oh my gosh, I'm exhausted.
Have my 30 amp Bio NO battery here in this PowerWorks case. Really handy with power poles and USB. And a cigarette lighter and a voltmeter on the top. This is really handy to have.
Kilo 7 Alpha Golf Echo, you are 2 Alpha Oregon. QSL.
So this is our first outing for the club for field day, and had a bunch of people to get on the radio for either the first time or the first time in a long time. Nice pizzas for lunch, and just having a lot of fun. A low, easy field day effort. So I'm sure we'll do it again next year.
Well, thanks, Randy. We appreciate your great field day coverage from up in Oregon. And we've got a reminder for our viewers, if you or your club have been working on an interesting project, make sure you do grab a half a dozen photos or a dozen or more and email them to Randy for his new Ham Nation series, Show Me Your Project. Next, let's pick up Dan, N9LVS. He's got highlights of the field day from the Fox Cities Amateur Radio Society.
Welcome to Field Day 2019. The Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club conducted its field day at the Valley Aero Modelers Club field, about 10 miles north of Appleton. First thing on the agenda was getting the new to us van up and running and trying to get up the 45-foot pneumatic mast. Well, after a little bit of a struggle, that went up and it carried 2 dipoles, one for our Gordo station and one for the sideband station. The big advantage of being out of town a ways is the noise floor is a lot quieter than in town. Once field day got started, the CW team took off like usual, making contact after contact. The other trailer, holding the digital and SSB radio, started out on digital, and they too raised up the contacts right away. Our VHF and UHF station did very well at the beginning as well. After everything kind of settled a little bit, then we got the Gordo station up and running. The Gordo station was right in the van. After a while, the digital and SSB station went from digital over to SSB and did very well at making contacts. Even with the sunspot cycle low, a lot of us found it a little bit more challenging to make contacts. We even tried making some satellite contacts. Gary, KB9AIT, brought his satellite system. It's a pretty unique little system. It uses a computer to track the satellite and sends the information to the rotor. The Fox Cities Amateur Radio Club treats field day more like a social event. While we would like to make a lot of contacts, the The real reason to do Field Day is more to socialize. And that is Field Day 2019. From the Valley Area Modelers Club Field in Appleton, Wisconsin, this is Dan, N9LVS, 7-3.
Thanks, Dan. 7-3 to you also, and we always appreciate your outstanding videos here on Ham Nation. We'll check in now with Tom Crowley. He's KC0VII. He was on hand to cover the activity of the Austin Area Amateur Radio Club. Tom?
The Austin Area Amateur Radio Club held Field Day this year at the Moore County Historical Society. We operate out of the Pioneer Building. We had our tower trailer fully assembled, ready to go, tri-bander beam along with the VHF beam on top, and an 80 and a 40-meter dipole. We'd like to thank the Moore County Historical Society for allowing us to operate out of the Pioneer Building. This is our 5th year of operation. The Historical Society has a number of buildings, artifacts in one section of the Moore County Fairgrounds. If you're ever in the area, stop in to see these artifacts from early days of Moore County to present. Once Field Day began, KD0 TLJ Joyce, along with Mary, KB0 SVG, were running the FT99Y and the logging software. Carl, WA0 RLY, was running the club's HF rig. Behind the Pioneer Building, we have parking for the operators. There's room to set up any dipoles and other type of antennas. We have a small area that you can actually camp overnight if you have an RV or a tent. KB0 SPM John is helping our club president Mike, KC0YQU, operating and logging the software. New member Rob is running the HF rig. Like any good field day, food is aplenty. This year we had all the members bring us a dish to pass for a good old-fashioned potluck. As you can see, there was a good selection of food. While everybody was getting a quick bite to eat, TLJ Joyce, along with Chris, were trying to log a few calls in and try to get ahead of the game. Club CW Master, KA0RMP, Dean, arrived with his normal glory.
Well, thanks, Tom, for covering the Austin Area Field Day. Tonight, we've got 39 seconds of great slides from Steve, KK6VZE. Victor, go ahead and run the video. We'll provide a little bit of narration from Tom. For several years, the Marin Amateur Radio Society and the Redwood Empire DX Association have combined efforts, teaming up for ARRL's National Field Day Challenge. This year, they were fortunate enough to secure the Marin Rod and Gun Club grounds located on San Francisco Bay in San Rafael. Their setup included a wide range of impressive antennas, and each year the call sign alternates between the two clubs. This year, they used Redwood Empire's call sign. That's W6KB. And their Exchange 3A, San Francisco, did very well. In addition, they had QSOs made. They had all the extra points they could score also. That teamwork consistently attains high scores. Well, that's it. Thanks, Steve, for the nice photography. And if you're looking for more field day videos, check it out with Larry, WD0AKX. We got a note from him just after we put this video segment to bed. He's the ham radio guy on YouTube. So go to that site on YouTube and check it out. Larry invited the local club to run their field day in his garage this year. So should be an interesting video from the ham radio guy, Larry, WD0AKX. Well, that's a wrap for the 6th Ham Nation video segment for 2019. You keep those videos coming in, we'll be happy to show them to all of our Ham Nation viewers. And if you have questions about producing a video, please do so. Send me an email with your questions or anything else you'd like to know about Ham Nation Videos to HamNationVideos at twit.tv, the address there on the bottom of the screen. We'll be glad to help you. Right now, it's time to see how field day went for George. down in Jackson, Mississippi. George, take it away.
Okay, Dale, thanks. And great report there from everyone who submitted videos this time around. Well, we did make it to the woods this year. You know, that's what we like to do, is go out in the woods and set up way off the grid where there's no noise or interference. And we hadn't been able to do it the past couple of years because it rained out every time. This time it didn't. And we had a site close to where we normally go, but slightly different. It was up on a pretty good hill, about 384 feet, which is a little higher than average around here. And it worked, well, we thought it worked real good for us. I have noticed on social media a lot of people talking about how bad the bands were this year for field day. It didn't appear that way to us, so I'm not sure if it's because we had such a low noise floor where we were, or if we were on a hill, or maybe just in this part of the country it wasn't bad. But we had pretty good conditions, I thought. I used SDR Play, where I could look and see the entire bands at once, and there was always activity through the whole field day event where I was. So there were stations on the air, and I had no problem hearing them. Very easy here. Now, Wayne and I went out on Friday night and set up a campsite and the tents, and we worked all the way through field day. Tommy showed up Saturday morning, and it was very hot here. And although we air conditioned the tent, it's hard to keep up with a 95-degree temperature and a high humidity. So I'm still kind of recouping from that and haven't really had a chance to edit a lot of the video yet. But I've got a couple of little clips here tonight and a couple of things I wanted to mention about them. First up here is the first antenna that I erected, and this is one I used for most of the event here. It's a vertical. I've got the MFJ lightweight fiberglass mast sitting right here on an old TV tripod. I've used this before in the past to do verticals. It's about the weight of a fishing reel, but it's 43 feet tall. So it's a real good antenna. And that's the cap that's on the top there, and you can see I've just got a vertical strung up there, and I can tap it down from 20 meters all the way on up. And I've got radials laid out here on the ground for each of the bands. So this is, right now it's working really good on 20 meters. Of course, field day hasn't officially begun yet, so I haven't made any contacts. But that's antenna number one. And we're working on the others now. And I want to thank my little brother for coming out with a tractor and bush hogging around that place out in the woods and helping level up the ground a little bit. That made a big difference, but this was a good site. We enjoyed it. Not sure we'll be able to get to it every year because it's down a logging road, and they just happened to be logging in there this year, and they had a bulldozer, and they were keeping the road good and smooth and cleared out, so no problems getting to it this year. Was a little dusty, though. One thing I want to mention, I said in that video that I could go from a 20-meter antenna on up in the bands. Well, that's a mistake. I could actually, with 43 foot, I could get up a 40-meter antenna. And that's actually what I had up right there and didn't realize it. When we got on the air, my tuner tuned it up. I used an auto tuner, LDG 100Z, and I don't have a VSWR meter there on it, so I didn't really notice. So the tuner just tuned it in, and I was seeing a lot of signals, but I wasn't able to make a lot of contacts right then, and I was on the 20-meter band. The antenna was on 40, and I didn't realize it. Wayne was over on another antenna nearby on 40 meters. And although we were using bandpass filters on all our antenna systems there, he was just tearing me up every time he would transmit. He was really killing what I was trying to hear on 20 meters. And that just goes to kind of verify something I heard recently. I had not thought about it. Although I wasn't using a multiband antenna, my antenna was resonant on 40 meters. And therefore, it was apt to pick up a lot of QRM on 40 from other nearby transmitting stations. So a multiband antenna may not be the best choice for field day. If you've got others in the area, you're going to get more RF back down the antenna from them as well and possibly interfere with you. Once I retapped it for 20 meters, it worked like gangbusters. No problems then whatsoever. Managed to get some QSOs. And I have another little video here. This one is behind the scenes view of some of what we were shooting.
Okay, it's recording now. Well, it's not a very good shot though. There we go. Not very good lighting. Well, that kind of sucks, man. I probably ought to go get those little lights out of my truck. Huh? I said I probably ought to go get the little lights out of my truck. It's pretty bad.
Well, I mean, I don't... It's supposed to be nighttime.
But it looks it.
Okay. Well, that's probably enough.
Well, go ahead and do something else.
Whiskey 5, Juliet Delta X-ray.
Alright. They good?
Yeah.
So there you go. That's how you stage some B-roll to use at field day. That, you know, the idea was we would come back and edit that and put some dialogue up under it. But, you know, I was just trying to grab out something for tonight. And I would say the QRM for the crickets were worse than any electrical QRM that we had on the bands. And you could see I was using the SDR play there as a pan adapter, and I had my IC7000 sitting there beside it. The two were linked together, so they tracked each other on frequency. I've got to say that combination worked well for me. I was able to have the pan adapter and see everything happening on the band there, and you could see there was activity on 40 meters. That really... I really like that. You know, once you've used a pan adapter or a band scope, it's hard to go back. I love my IC7000. It's a great rig, but I do miss not having the pan adapter on it. And boy, this just topped it off for me. I had a lot of fun operating. It really worked great. And I'll be talking more about that in the future, but that's just what I pulled together for this week. So I would have something to talk about for field day. I believe that's, well, one other note I want to make here is we had up an 80 meter antenna, and Wayne listened around on 80 meters some. We weren't hearing people do field day on 80 meters this year. I'm not sure why. You know, 80 meters has always seemed like it's had more rag chew going on field day nights than other times, but nobody was calling CQ field day on there, so I was a little bit surprised at that, but not totally unexpected. So that's my field day story. We'll have more on it in the future here. But now I guess let's get Amanda in here and see what kind of questions are going on in the chat room this week.
Well, good evening, George. My first question was going to be to you. Did you bring the loudest generator possible for your site, but now you're telling me that it was the crickets, so now I understand.
Oh, yes, that was crickets. You could hear the generator embedded in the back of there, and I actually was going to make another little clip. That was Tommy's generator running at that point. I was going to make another clip to put in there, and I've got the video of my generator running, except it was so noisy you couldn't hardly hear me talking. So, no. I did bring the loudest one I could find. It just wasn't right there.
That's so funny. Okay, moving on. Let's see. Gordo, we have quite a few questions for you. The first one is from WB5ORT, says, about the LifePo bats, what is the effective low temp operation of these bats? Can they run down below freezing in the winter?
Yes, great question, Amanda. And my friend down in Texas, they can go all the way down to 14 degrees before they begin to not respond to heavy loads. So 14 degrees, but Kevin says it'll even go lower, but you don't want to hit them quite as hard with current draw, like from a sideband rig at 100 watts. But down to 14 degrees, that's mighty cold. I don't know if it gets that cold in Denver this past weekend, huh?
Oh, man, we got snowed on. Saturday morning, we woke up, there was snow. We were up at 9,500 feet, everyone. I think thereabouts. It was pretty high up, maybe 9,000, but cold. It's cold, the coldest June I've ever felt in my life. We were very fortunate that we inherited a camper this last weekend, so we did stay nice and toasty, but we really had a fun time. And at least we weren't really sweaty. There was no bugs. We didn't have any of that stuff to worry about. All we had to do was wear a jacket. So it wasn't a bad time at all. My next question for you, Gordo, is from Brett, WY7BG. He says, is the chameleon loop weatherproof, or can you only use it in fair weather?
Let's see. You're speaking of the loop antenna. Is that correct? The chameleon? Yes, the loop antenna is a fair weather antenna. And the reason is, as the humidity goes up, especially with even a light little shower, the chance of that internal capacitor arcing over, especially on 40 meters, is huge. You'd really want to reduce power down to 20 watts. And that antenna is not designed as waterproof. So it is designed, though, that it could go in an attic in a condominium or a townhome and via a little servo motor actually tune, and another motor will actually rotate it. So it is really an inside antenna, not designed much for the salt air, and certainly would not hold up well on transmit because the moisture getting onto the plates of that capacitor that would arc it over at any power over about 20 watts.
Very good to know. Thank you. So my next question is kind of a general question. How did everyone do at Field Day? George, how many contacts did you guys make?
I haven't really scored it yet. I'm going to say we do about like we normally do, which is not a tremendous amount. We're not hardcore folks when it comes to making contacts. We make them, and we're just there to have fun. And I will say this, in the years past, I always had the highest score out of a group of three, Tommy N5ZNO and Wayne KG5RE. And Tommy would always come in second, and Wayne would come in third. It got turned around this year. Wayne came in number one. Tommy was still in second, but I came in at the bottom this year. I was proud to see that they got a lot of contacts, and it's always a fun time. I'm going to say we probably, I don't know, maybe made around 200 or so. we're way out in the woods without a lot of power, and we're not a big gun, but we hear a lot of them.
Oh yeah, and I think we have to go back to Dan's video and understand. He says it's more of a social activity. It's not about the amount of contacts. It's about who you got interested into ham radio. And I know, well, George, I know you didn't have any visitors out there, but a lot of groups do. And we did too. And I love, love, love making the contacts with the kiddos on the air. And they're so nervous and they're trying to spit out their call sign. And you can hear them when they key up, there's someone coaching them in the background, telling them what to say. And you always just have to say, you're doing a great job. Glad to hear you on. You have to be patient, take the contact and make it work. And exactly with Linda as well out there in Oregon, somebody really stopped and took the time to make sure that they made that contact work. And I think that's more important than adding up all of those contacts for contesting purposes, is my personal belief. But let's see. This was another question. Did anyone use FT4 during field day? And I don't know. FT8 was hard enough to get working during field day. I don't think anyone was doing FT4. Anyone have any comments?
No, we didn't even do FT8.
Okay. And Dale, what did you do for field day? Oh, go ahead, Gordo.
Very interesting about FT8. On 6 meters on down, every so often we'd come across a band where there was just very little activity. Yet we'd go down to FT8 and I would read calls coming in from the Midwest, the East Coast, the Northeast, but they were on FT8 and they never came over to single sideband or CW. Chip K7JA said the same thing, echoes your finding out, George, about 75 meters, and that was there was not a lot of activity of folks exchanging reports on 75, but holy smoly, that evening I tuned it in on FT8, and that's where they are down there. So one has to weigh the field day stations that were taking it as a contest, as Chip was doing, and their team did thousands of contacts, versus those field day stations doing voice and maybe an introduction to FT8, but a lot of coaching on the side and a lot of time in between contacts. And there's a balance. And I came from the old school of you got to get those points. And I'm slowly transitioning to go lighten up, Gordo, that field day is more of a social event and a time to get newcomers on the air. And if I decide to change my mind, I'll go with another group and play contests. But I sort of enjoyed the relaxed atmosphere that it looks like all of us had on Ham Nation tonight with field day. Amanda?
Absolutely. Now, I'm hardcore. I want to make sure every station is on the air at all times. And I think I've kind of been put in charge of that with our club. And I'm dictating who's operating where, so we have the least amount of interference. And I want to see people on there. But I also want to make sure that everyone that showed up to field day has the opportunity to actually be on the air. If you want to go and hunt and peck and you just want to make some contacts and get yourself used to it, I just want somebody on the radio, really, is my point of view. Whether it's hardcore or having fun. And you should be doing both, by the way. But all right, let's wrap it up, you guys. We've gone a little bit over here tonight. We really appreciated Howard being on with us. I had a bunch of questions in chat for him, so hopefully we can meet up with him again and talk about that. Thanks for the RigPi there, Howard. Other than that, we're going to go over the nets. We're going to have the 40-meter net on 7192. We don't have a 20-meter net tonight because Steve is under thunderstorms, so lightning is taking over and he is unplugged. 14 Charlie for the D-Star net and TAC 311 for the DMR net. With that, who's wrapping up the show tonight?
Well, I do have one question I want to ask, and that's to Dale. What did you do for field day? We saw other people's videos. Did you do anything?
Yeah, Dale.
Actually, we were guilty. We did not, but I can report from some of the activities in the Wichita area, from the Wichita Amateur Radio Club. And what happened there is they had a lot of thunderstorms come through. They were off the air about 4 hours in the evening when there was a thunderstorm warning in the area. And then around 5 in the morning, there was actually some tornado warnings around the area. So a lot of the operations in Kansas, I heard the same stories from up in Topeka talking to some of the guys on DMR. So in the Midwest here, the storm sort of interfered with the field day, but that's about it, Amanda.
Very good, Dale, and we really appreciate it. I do have this wonderful, awesome guy, Lou, KA4 EPS. He lives in Florida. He has a home here in Colorado. We ended up meeting him during the Waldo Canyon fire when his home was in danger of burning up. He joined into our repeater system to listen to what was going on during our area's activities. Anyhow, long story short, he came out here and he shot this really, really cool video of our field day site. So I hope to share that with everyone next week. It was really a great job, Lou. Fantastic. All right, go ahead. George, you wrapping this up?
Well, I can. Let's see. What have we got here? Well, we've got Ham Nation, and it's been a great show tonight. And we had a lot of reports from field day. It looks like everybody had a great time. And as Gordo says, a kind of relaxed time. And yeah, we relaxed as much as we could out in the heat. But I'll talk more about that in the future here because I would like to share the misery of trying to do field day in the summer in Mississippi. But yeah, great to be back tonight and great to hear from Bob there as well. And Howard, boy, I got to tell you, Howard is one nice guy there. I met him, like I said, a couple of years ago. You don't know half the story on Howard yet, so I hope we'll get him back in the future because he's got a lot more interesting background that you know nothing about, and it's ham radio related. So thanks for being here, everyone. Join us again next Wednesday night on Twit here for the next Ham Nation. And from Jackson, Mississippi, this is W5JDX 73.